What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. Happy draft day. I can't believe it, Alex. It's finally here, and I am so freaking excited for tonight. The 2025 NFL Draft is kicking off. The Giants picking third overall. Will they pick again tonight later on in the first round? Sure sounds like it, but we will see. You never know. The NFL draft is wild, and I'm so excited to live react to it on the channel tonight. Make sure you're all tuning in and watching the live stream. You'll get my raw, honest, immediate reaction to every pick of the first round tonight, whether the Giants are picking third and 20th, 27th, whatever. I'll be live for everything. So I can't wait for it. And before we get to the draft tonight, of course, we promised it for you guys, the 7-round mock draft special. Alex and I are going to go through, do some mock drafts, talk about what we think the Giants should do, what we think they will do, how those two ideas align, and everything else in between in today's NFL draft special episode here at Fireside Giants. Before we dive into it, big thank you to everybody who's been tuning into the channel over the last several months. The offseason can be boring, but we try our best to make it fun. And you guys all helped us make it so much fun. The daily support on the live streams, the videos, the shorts, the Instagram posts, everything. All the support that we got from the community means the world to us. You guys made the pre-draft process and the draft season so much fun and so special for us this year. So just a big thank you to everybody who's been tuning in for a long time. If you found us recently, anywhere in between, we thank you for all of your support on this channel. So, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? How are you feeling? It's finally draft day. And you know what? I got to ask you about a big rumor that's circling around, Jackson Dart. How do you feel about Joe Shane's kid posting Jackson Dart highlights on his Instagram story last night?
Oof, Jackson Dart. I mean, he is the talk of the town right now for the Giants. Everyone's saying Dart, Dart, Dart. And it seems like, at least if the rumors are true, the Giants will trade up into the first round to get the Ole Miss quarterback, a guy that has lots of interesting traits, decent arm, good mobility, lots of upside, and as Anthony will call him, a moldable piece of clay. And I think that's a really good way to describe Jackson Dart, because ultimately he's just a kind of raw prospect that has a lot of interesting traits that I think if you mold him the right way, if you get him to kind of use that aggression, use his mindset, and his willingness to, throw under pressure and do all these things, stay in the pocket. There are some red flags to the game, of course, and we'll probably discuss those in a second here. But if Brian Dable can really develop him, if he can learn from guys like Jameis Winston, learn from guys like Russell Wilson, maybe he can be a franchise quarterback. And if he pans out, the Giants will not have just walked away with an absolute steal. They'll set themselves up for a very long time with the 5th-year option, and they'll be able to use their future draft capital and first-round picks on position players, players that they can just reinforce critical needs on the team. And, going BPA, usually that just solves needs anyway. And this instance, Giants probably are going to take a BPA approach with the 3rd overall pick, but Dart is interesting. Joe Shane's son posting Jackson Dart highlights on his Instagram, and then his Instagram going locked or private. Interesting, to say the very least. If I was Joe, I'd be like, what are you doing, man? The draft is tomorrow. Just wait in a couple more hours. Instead of trying to get involved in the hype, everyone's going to look at your post and think something of it. And if it wasn't for his son's post, look at every single reporter. And one of the most tuned in Giants reporters, Dan Graziano, works, an NFL network now, is saying that they love Dart and they are going to try to trade up for Dart. However, Anthony, let's talk about this, heading into it, this rumor, the Browns also like Dart too. So where do the Giants have to trade up to actually make sure they get him and they don't miss out on the opportunity, because the Browns are lurking as well?
Yeah, I think that's a huge question, and it's really going to be the central topic of debate for NFL fans, I think, entering tonight's draft. Where are these quarterbacks going to go? Which teams are in the market? And how does this competition ultimately get settled? Because that's what it's boiling down to, Alex. It's becoming a competition. It's going to become a bidding war if both of these teams really want one specific quarterback. And hey, we're only mentioning the Giants and the Browns right now, Alex. What about the Saints? What about the Raiders? What about the Steelers? These are all teams that met with Jackson Dart and other quarterbacks that the Giants have also expressed interest in. So obviously it sounds like the Giants have locked themselves into targeting Jackson Dart. That seems to be what's going around the rumor mill. Every single top reporter is saying it. And you know what? The biggest one for me, Alex, was Daniel Jeremiah releasing his mock draft last night. Daniel Jeremiah is probably the most accurate mock drafter in the NFL industry. And he's one of the ones who got the Daniel Jones pick in 2019, right? The one that came out of left field that nobody saw coming. Daniel Jeremiah's final mock draft had the Giants taking Daniel Jones. So that's just one example. But every single year, this guy kind of knows what the Giants are doing. The fact that he had the Giants in his mock draft trading all the way up, Alex, to 18 with the Seattle Seahawks, first of all, kind of bizarre. That's a 16 pick jump to get into the middle of the first round to take Dart. It's way higher than any of us ever thought Jackson Dart would go. And he had the Giants giving up a 2026 second round pick to make that move up for Jackson Dart. So pretty crazy business there. Daniel Jeremiah, again, being one of the most plugged in and reliable, definitely indicates to me that the Giants are serious about Jackson Dart. And because he had them going all the way up to 18, tells me that Daniel Jeremiah knows the Giants are not the only team that's serious about Jackson Dart. And if they wait too long to trade up, they might find themselves in trouble and they might find themselves missing out on the Ole Miss quarterback. So I think the Browns are a team to watch. I think the Saints are a team to watch. And I think there is going to be a lot of competition. And ultimately, Alex, while I want to say, the Giants shouldn't have to go that far to get Dart, unfortunately, I feel like they're going to have to go up pretty freaking far. And they're going to have to give up a pretty good and sizable amounts of draft capital, not only this year, but maybe even in the next year's draft. Alex, this is kind of the big question because you did say, hey, if the Giants do secure a franchise quarterback via trade up, they're getting a steal. And that is true. It obviously depends on how he develops, and it depends on a lot of different factors, whether or not it becomes a steal, whether or not these guys get fired has a lot to do with it. But how much are you willing to give up for Jackson Dart? And I know that kind of ties into you asking me how far I would be willing to go up. I guess I'm kind of asking that to you as well. But when you're looking at this, I think the better question for me to ask you, knowing that our GM and our head coach are on the hot seat, are you really willing to dip into 2026 draft capital to trade up for Jackson Dart? Or would you try to limit it to just this year's draft capital in order to move up into the first round for a quarterback?
So it's a really good question. What am I willing to give up for Jackson Dart? I really preferably, obviously, our second round pick is non-negotiable, right? 34th is going to be included no matter what for the most part. Ideally, 99 is the one that is the pick that I'd love to use. That's the pick. That's the conditional third rounder we got. That's like the one that's on the brink of being a fourth round pick. You could probably move up to about 28, maybe 27 with that pick. But it may not be enough, right? You might need to go up to 20 or 21 or 22. Like that might be what it takes to get up and get Dart ahead of another team. So you're probably talking about a second round pick this year. And Anthony, I'll counter with this. I think this is an interesting kind of alternative here because this is possible. If the Giants take Abdul Carter at 3, would you rather do this? Your 2022, or rather 2025 second round pick, your 2026 second round pick, or your 2025 second round pick, like a sixth round, or rather maybe you could do like a next year's 5th and Kayvon Thibodeau, or next year's 6th and Kayvon Thibodeau. Would you rather throw in Thibodeau, or would you rather just give away draft capital?
There's no way I'm trading Kayvon for
you'd
this.
rather just
I think that yeah, just draft capital for me. And I do think that's a really good question because I bet you there are fans in the comment section reacting to this that are going to say, yeah, I'll trade Kayvon Thibodeau to get into the first round for a quarterback. And I understand that logic. But to me, let's look at proven commodities. I'm not going to say that Kayvon Thibodeau is a fully proven commodity, but he's definitely proven to be at least a capable starting edge rusher in the NFL. That's valuable. We have no idea what Jackson Dart's going to be. We have no idea if he's going to be a long-term starter or a long-term backup, or if he's going to be out of the league in 2 years. Like, we really do not know with rookie quarterbacks. And for me personally, I like the idea of having 5 legitimate pass rushers on this defensive line, man. Like, I think the Giants could add another pass rusher from the interior later on in this draft. And then you've got a 5-man rotation of Thibodeau, Burns, Lawrence, Carter, and a 5th guy. I mean, seriously, dude, that is a championship level defensive line. You take away Kayvon Thibodeau from that equation, and now you're kind of back to square one. You've got a great defensive line, but you don't got the best in the NFL. You hold on to all these guys, and they all start to develop and reach their ceiling together. You legitimately could have one of the best defensive lines in football. So for me, Kayvon Thibodeau, non-negotiable. I would rather just dip into the draft capital. And honestly, I asked you the question, would you dip into 2026 capital? For me, I probably would. I definitely wouldn't dip into the first round pick of next year, but second round pick, I might put that one on the table. And this is the reason why. The New York Giants have been really good at acquiring top 100 picks via trade over the last couple of years. Whether you're talking about trading away Darren Waller, whether you're talking about compensatory picks, whatever, the Giants have done a good job of gaining additional picks inside the top 100. So under this kind of notion that Joe Shane would be making this trade and hopefully saving his job in the process, I do kind of trust him to recoup a top 100 pick after giving up a second round pick in next year's draft. So that would kind of be my logic. I think it would have to become a priority for the Giants. Maybe it ends up happening via a Kayvon Thibodeau midseason trade, but I'm not trading Thibodeau on draft night, not even close to draft night. It's not happening until midseason if it's happening at all for me. I think at first and foremost, we need to get all these guys on the field and see if we can make that rotation work. But since we kind of shifted this focus of the conversation, Alex, to Kayvon Thibodeau and to the defensive line in general, I think that's a great time to go ahead, dive right in, and start these mock drafts and kick it off at number 3 overall. What do you say?
I'm down for that. I think we both agree on the 3rd overall pick in this one too.
Absolutely. So we're going to kick this thing off immediately with a 7-round predictive mock draft, and then we'll go ahead and dive into our what we would do mock draft, do it collaboratively. And thank you to everybody who did submit your mock drafts on our Twitter and our YouTube community page. We picked a few of the best ones, and we're going to go ahead and react to those as well. So stay tuned for the second half of this episode and for the Fireside Giants Pro Day special, which we will dive into in a little bit here. I'm excited for you guys to see that. But Alex, let's waste no more time and go ahead and dive right into our first mock draft. All right, so we fired up the PFF mock draft machine, and we are ready to go ahead and begin our 7-round New York Giants predictive mock draft. And again, to clarify, predictive, this is what we expect to happen. Not necessarily what we would do, but what we expect to happen at tonight's 2025 NFL Draft. Alex, I feel like this first selection for the Giants, it's rather easy. All of the rumors are indicating New York Giants are landing a stud pass rusher at number 3 overall, Penn State's Abdul Carter. And hey, man, I'm excited for this. I think this is great. As you all know, if you've been watching the channel for a long time, it crushed me inside when the Giants traded down with Micah Parsons on the board years ago. This feels like finally we're righting a wrong. So I'm really excited. You know, I guess there's still an outside chance the Giants surprise us. Maybe they do take a quarterback here. Maybe it's all smoke. I don't think that's the case, though. I feel pretty confidently that tonight Abdul Carter will be a New York Giant.
I do too. And listen, guys, Carter, I was watching more of him last night, and this guy has some of the best get up, like some of the best reaction timing to his snap that I've ever seen. Like instantaneous reactions. He's going to beat tackles purely with that in the NFL. And, you know, his ability to dart inside, pun intended, and, you know, bend around the edge. And he's still a raw pass rusher. He only has 1 year of a total kind of pass rush season under his belt. He can learn a lot, different moves, different elements to his game. This guy has not even sniffed the surface, scratched the surface of what he's actually capable of. I can't wait to see what he can do with Big Blue, and everything is pointing towards him being a Giant. Even he's saying, I'm going to leave Philadelphia behind. I'm leaving the Eagles behind. I'm New York all the way. You know, and ultimately that's the right decision because, you know, it's all about money once you get to the NFL, not about fandom and winning. And I think that he would be a tremendous Giant. And I wrote an article this morning, Abdul Carter, he gives the Giants an identity for the first time in 10 years. Their identity is their defensive line. It's not an individual player, but it's Dexter Lawrence, it's Brian Burns, it's Abdul Carter, and it's Kayvon Thibodeau. That level of talent on the defensive front, you're going to compete in the NFC East because of that alone, right? Against Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, against Jaden Daniels and the Commanders, Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. That defensive line is going to single-handedly keep the Giants in games, and it's going to give them a chance to win against some of these divisional opponents. So I'm pretty excited about this. This identity the Giants are creating. They already have a superstar playmaker and Neighbors on offense. You get one more of those, you figure out the quarterback. If you hit on the quarterback, which we'll talk about in a second, it's going to be a really fun draft, and it's going to be a really fun 2025 season. Even if we're not a great team, I think we're going to see just tremendous progress, and at the very least, I can buy into that.
That's all we need to see. I just need to see some damn progress. I cannot sit through another 3-win, 4-win, 5-win season. I need to see this New York Giants team at least push to 6-7 wins and just play a meaningful game in the month of December. Like if we're eliminated in November again, I'm going to be a very pissed off person, and you guys are not going to enjoy hearing me angry rant every single damn day on this Fireside Giants podcast. However, if the Giants are playing some competitive football in December, you're going to see the happiest version of Anthony Rivardo on Fireside Giants that you've seen in a very long time. So I'll agree with all the points that you made, Alex. He does give the Giants an identity. And the big point that I'm going to make for this final time, since it's about to happen tonight, the Giants are going to draft Carter, I assume. The final point that I'm going to repeat here, look at all of the best teams in the NFL over the last, let's say, 15 years. Let's say all of these Super Bowl winning teams. Let's look at the history of the New York Giants, Alex. Think about back in the 80s when the Giants already had a stacked defensive line in front seven. They had guys like Lawrence Taylor and others, still spent a first-round pick on Carl Banks. Did the Giants then have too many front seven players? No. They built a championship defense by doing that. Let's fast forward to 2007, 2008. The Giants already had Justin Tuck, Osi Umenyiora, Michael Strahan. Still spent a first-round pick on Matthias Kiwanuka. Added them all together. They didn't say, oh, now we got to trade away Strahan. Now we got to trade away Tuck. Now we got to trade away Osi. You got to get rid of one of these guys. No, they found a way to get all of them on the field. And then all of those guys being on the field was too much for who to handle? Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, too much for them to handle? That's my point. And then, you know what happened, Alex? A few years later, all right, Strahan retires, but they still have Justin Tuck. They still have Osi Umenyiora and Matthias Kiwanuka. Not enough. Let's go ahead and add Jason Pierre-Paul to the mix. Imagine if the Giants said, no, we can't have a fourth defensive end on this roster. That's too much. We got to trade one of these guys away. All four of those guys were instrumental in that second playoff run and win. Now, I know that the Giants' defense wasn't the best in that regular season, but you cannot deny in the playoffs, they came to freaking play, and that defensive line was absolutely a major difference maker in Super Bowl 42 and Super Bowl 46 especially. It's very important for the Giants to stack talent on the defensive line. And Alex, again, final point. I've never seen a fan base complain about having too many pass rushers before. It truly amazes me. I just don't know where this notion comes from. You can never have enough pass rushers in the modern NFL. That's how I see it. But meanwhile, a lot of Giants fans are like, this is too much. You got to trade one of these guys away or do something else with this position. You can't have enough pass rushers, guys. There's no such thing as too many pass rushers. Stack the defensive line like the Eagles did, like the Chiefs did, like the Rams did when they won that Super Bowl. Stack the D-line, and that's how you build a championship roster. I rest my case.
Yeah, I think that's a great case. And listen, let's also not forget, and Anthony, you've brought this up before, Abdul Carter is not just a pass rusher, right? Like, he can do a lot of things for you, especially, by the way, against mobile quarterbacks. So two of them in our division, we got to play Jane Daniels and we got to play Jalen Hurts twice a year. Go watch what Abdul Carter does against mobile quarterbacks. You can put him, you can have him spy, and you can still use Kayvon Thibodeau and Dexter Lawrence off the edge. And this guy, Abdul Carter, is like he's shot out of a cannon when he identifies a quarterback scrambling out of the pocket. And that's partially why, Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland were such big signings for us, massive signings for us, because these mobile quarterbacks, when they get flushed out of the pocket, Abdul Carter is like a heat-seeking missile. And I think you guys are going to recognize just how special that is. You can't use Kayvon like that. You can't use Burns like that. Abdul Carter is a difference maker. His reaction timing, I'm telling you, man, just go watch this guy. His reaction timing is straight up elite. You talk about elite traits, it is straight up elite. Like, I honestly, I don't think I've seen a player that reacts to the ball, reacts to motion, reacts to any tendencies like this guy. Like, it's what is making him the third overall pick right now, is that when the ball is snapped, he's already off the mark, right? He's already behind you, the line of scrimmage. Obviously not penalty, but in a very legal manner. But when he's spying on quarterbacks, the second he watches them flush out of the pocket, he absolutely freaking flies at them. It's impressive to watch. And he was injured towards the end of last season, and he still dominated. So, like, he's going to be healthy. And he's 21 years old. This is a special player, like all-pro, perennial all-pro level talent if he gets it right, if he gets the development right, if he stays healthy. This guy could be one of the best pass rushers in football. And my friends, having that with Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon and Brian Burns is an embarrassment of riches. They're going to keep you in football games. Deonte Banks, his best friend is going to be that defensive line. He's going to get his confidence back, right? Paulson Adebo, he's going to look like a CB1 because quarterbacks are going to have to make premature decisions and bad ones. And he's an aggressive corner that likes to, take risks. Javon Holland, deep portions of the field, those balls are going to be inaccurate because they're going to be getting hit as they throw. Like, there's going to be a lot more turnovers, a lot more opportunities. Abdul Carter is going to play such a substantial part in this defense. It's going to be so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be fantastic. But let's waste no more time on Abdul Carter. We already know this is going to be the pick anyway. So, Alex, now we have a big decision to make, and that's why I'm going to go ahead and make the selection and pause this immediately. Where are we trading up to? Because I think if we're doing a predictive mock draft, we have to predict that the Giants, based on everything we're hearing, are going to trade it back into the first round. Where do you think they ultimately land? I'm going to throw out my suggestion. Number
Okay.
15 to the Atlanta Falcons. That's a team that's eager to trade down. They have the
Okay.
third least draft capital among any team in the NFL this season. I think they pick at 15, and I don't think they pick again until like 80 or something. I think that's a team, if the Giants are trying to get up really high, 15 might be the landing spot.
The thing is, I don't know if Dart's going to go that high, which is the concern. But if it's a quarterback and it's like a 5 picks is the difference, you make the move and you feel good about it. The question is, right, like Daniel Jeremiah has the Giants giving up their second round pick this year and their second round pick next year to get to 18. What does it take to get to 15? A second, 2 seconds, and maybe a fourth, maybe of next year's fourth rounder. Maybe that's reasonable, or this year's fourth rounder. It's a lot of capital, right? It's a lot.
I would think if we're going to make this trade and do some negotiating, I would think 99 in next year's second. And that's mock draft machines saying that's not even enough. Like that's a
I think I would go
60%
to
chance.
18. I think Jeremiah's makes the most sense because the quarterbacks ahead of Seattle don't need other teams ahead of Seattle don't need a quarterback. So I think that 18 does make a lot of sense.
I'm
And
low-key worried about Seattle drafting a quarterback. Like, I know they just signed Sam
that's
Darnold, but
fair.
that didn't prevent the Vikings, or I mean,
I
I'm
don't
sorry,
think
the
they'll draft
Falcons
one
from
this year.
drafting Michael Penix.
I think
Like if
next
they've
year
got
they would draft
conviction.
one. Next year they would because it's a 2-year deal, right? So I think next year they would draft a quarterback and then have him sit behind Darnold or even compete with him, depending on if he flops or not. But I do think 18 does make a lot of sense to me. Alternatively, like the thing is, you have to jump in front of the Steelers. You have to. There's no
I
choice.
just
There's no choice, right?
I agree with that. I think you do have to get in front of the Steelers, but 18 doesn't make sense to me because of how much draft capital the Seahawks have. They are not incentivized at all to move down out of the first round. They have 2 second-round picks, 2 third-round picks, and a
But
fourth-round pick. They have no
but
reason to trade down.
I'll say this, right? I'll say this. If they get a next year second rounder, it gives them extraordinary leverage to trade up for a quarterback if Darnold doesn't pan out. So that does, if they're getting next
True.
year draft capital, I do find it valuable for them to do so. And giving money. I mean, the question is, if they're at 18, is there a player on the board that they feel like could be a significant difference maker? They could probably get a good receiver at 34. They can probably, or somewhat equivalent. Like after like pick 15, the talent drop off is quite steep. They could go with like Egbuka at 18. I do love Egbuka. Like there is some really good talent, but if they want to protect themselves long term, getting the Giants and like assuming the Giants are probably not going to be a great football team, it's probably going to be a good pick in 2026. You have to imagine like it might be worthwhile to stack up on next year draft capital to leverage that for a quarterback if need be, instead of trying to take one in a weaker class this year. So that would be my logic in favor of trading up to 18 with
Well,
the
I don't
Seahawks. So why
necessarily
they would.
think that the Seahawks are going to take a quarterback. I just think it was worth mentioning that it's a
Yeah,
possibility for
for
them.
sure.
It's not like we haven't seen mock drafts where they've done that even
Of
post
course.
signing Sam Darnold. But I just don't see why that team is incentivized to move down. They already have an embarrassment of riches in draft capital. I think that 15, the Falcons, makes more sense because they don't have any draft capital. Alex, they are picking 15th, then 46th, then 118, then 218, and 242. They don't have like any draft picks. They have 5 total picks. None of them are premium outside of 15 and I guess 46 as well. This is a team that really needs to move down. And I think that you could potentially make a cheaper trade to 15 than you could to 18 because the Seahawks are not nearly as incentivized to move down as the Falcons. The only question here is 15 too high to move up to draft Jackson Dart? That's the question mark. And also, this is a big part of this question. Where does Shedeur Sanders factor into all this? He's not going to be off the board at 15. If
It's
you're
a good
moving up to
point.
15, are you taking him at 15 or are you taking
Right.
Dart? And what do you think the Giants are going to do? Because I think that's more important. And I think it's important to throw this piece of information out there. Todd McShay reported that the Giants really don't like Shedeur Sanders, that he did a very poor job during the combine interview. Take all of this stuff with a grain of salt. You never know what's actually true and what's disinformation, whatever. But a lot of the reports that we're hearing from Todd McShay and a couple others seem to have been indicating the same thing. Brian Dable doesn't like Shedeur Sanders, but he really likes Jackson Dart. And that's why the Giants have become fixated on this guy, is for Brian Dable to get his specific hand-picked quarterback. So how high do you think the Giants are willing to go to get that quarterback? And do you think they take Dart ahead of Shedeur Sanders based on everything that we've been hearing?
I do think that they will. They would prefer to take Dart over Sanders. I've always said I thought Dart was closer to Sanders and Sanders was closer than Sanders was to Ward. I think Dart has a more upside. I think he has more upside, but I think Sanders has more immediate impact, but the Giants don't need him to play right now. So I do think that Dart is a better stash and C. The question is, like, you're right, Sanders does play a big part. I think Sanders is absolutely plummeting right now. I think he's plummeting straight past 10, and I think he's plummeting straight past 15. And I don't know where he ends up going. I think the Steelers may actually be where he ends up going. But if you trade up to 18 to get Dart, that means that you're trading up and then you have Dart as QB2 on your board. So, which is okay. Like, that's fine if the Giants feel that way. Would be, wow, what a twist of the narrative that would be too.
Yeah, here's the thing that I want to bring up, because with the Steelers at 21, a lot of people are saying, oh, they're probably going to take Sanders. I'm not so sold. I know that they like him, but if they don't take him, where does he go? Does he continue to fall? Is he then an option in the second round? And then the big question here would be, Alex, the Steelers rank 29th in total draft capital. They do not have a second round pick. Could they be the team that the Giants trade up with, take Dart as QB2 in this class, and the Steelers end up at 34 and maybe make another jump? And then they get to like 32 and they go ahead and take Sanders there. Like, I could see the draft getting that wild tonight. I could see it getting so crazy that the Steelers trade down and trade back up for Sanders. I could see the Giants moving to 21, but ultimately another team that needs draft capital is the Denver Broncos. Could the Giants just get to 20? The Broncos have a first-round pick and a second-round pick and a third-round pick, but they don't have a lot of mid-round draft capital. I don't know. I'm trying to piece it together and look at the teams that are thin on draft capital and figure out where the Giants might land. I do keep coming back to number 30 for the Atlanta Falcons. Number 15 for the Atlanta Falcons. I just think they have such a lack of draft capital that they would be most incentivized to take some extra picks in this year's draft. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll round it out. Like, where exactly? Well, go ahead.
I'll throw something in there, though. You know what the Falcons kind of need? And this may mess with you a little bit. They need a pass rusher. They could ask for Kayvon.
They
could. And the Giants would give them Kayvon, I think. Because they also just signed Marcus Golston. Who was it?
Chauncey
Golston. Yeah, so they signed Chauncey Golston. And I don't think he's like a, make or break, obviously, edge piece. But if the Falcons are like, we want Kayvon, I don't think the Giants are going to blink sending him if they get Carter. I think they'll pull the trigger for the quarterback and they'll sacrifice Kayvon for the quarterback. Not that it's my preference. I'm just saying I think the Giants would do that.
I don't think they would. But I don't know. This is why this is fun. This is a good debate. I think I just don't even think he should be tradable. Like, I don't view him as a tradable asset. I view him as a player who's a core piece, but I know a lot of Giants fans don't feel that way. I don't know. It's tough to tell. This is all becoming complicated by Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft where he had Dart at 18. Otherwise, I'd say, let's trade up to like pick 24 or pick 27 and let's
Where did he have Sanders going?
21. He had Dart going second, and then he had Sanders going 21 to the Steelers.
I mean, listen, it kind of feel like everyone's saying that now. Like, it feels like everyone's saying that someone's trading up to get Dart in the first round, and Sanders is plummeting to the 20s. That is, look, I don't know if it's smoke. We'll find out tonight, obviously, but like, that wouldn't surprise me though. Like, it wouldn't surprise me. The question is, how far do the Giants go to get him?
Yeah, that is the question. We have to answer that question because we've been struggling with it.
I don't know, man.
I want to throw out this piece of information that I found really interesting. Jay Glazer of Fox Sports, who's really a great insider. He's way ahead on a lot of things. He tweeted out yesterday that teams have added a new piece of criteria to their draft evaluation. It used to just be injuries and character concerns. Now it's do you love football is the third piece of criteria that teams are putting on this list. And I do wonder if the Giants are one of those teams. And I wonder if maybe that's what the issue is with Shedeur, because he also mentioned that players that come from money and players with big NIL deals, those are the guys that teams feel like maybe don't love football and are moving away from. I don't know if that's part of what's going on here with Shedeur. I don't know if that's part of why maybe they just really like Jackson Dart. Maybe he didn't have big on NIL deals and he's really into the game of football and he loves it. I don't know, but I do think there's a lot of credence to these rumors. I think that Shedeur Sanders is unfortunately going to slip in this year's draft, and I think the Giants are going to make a big move into the first round for Jackson Dart. So, Alex, let's pin it down. Where are we moving to? I still like 15, but if you think 15 is too high for Jackson Dart, I do understand that. Maybe we can find a bit lower down, maybe 20 to the Denver Broncos.
That could make sense to me. I mean, they need a running back. There's a lot. They could probably get a solid running back, like a Travion Henderson or something like that, or Judkins, at 34. if they wanted to go in that direction. So yeah, let's go with the Broncos, because they can stack up on some capital here and position Bo Nix to have a good sophomore season. I think is not a bad idea. They can also get a receiver at 34 too, because I think pick 20 to 34. There's not that many like big receivers. Like Matthew Golden, maybe he's the only one that goes in that range.
He might go earlier.
He might go earlier. So like the receiver drop off is quite significant in my opinion. After 20, like they could probably get a similar player at 34. I think the Broncos is not a bad team to target here in a possible trade back.
Yeah, I was actually reading reports, I think this morning, that the Broncos are looking to trade back as well and have been talking with teams. So I think this one makes a lot of sense. We'll see how it ages later on today, but I like number 20. Yeah, just get right ahead of the Steelers, though. I think that is important that we're, going to 20 with the Steelers at 21. So
yeah,
I guess
will say this though. I will say this before we do it, because I am like thinking about it again, and I think the Giants are just, if they really like Dart, I think they're going to move up as far as they possibly can to make sure that they do get him, because you can't gamble with that. So maybe 15 is the right move. Maybe 15 is the right move, because honestly, like if you gamble and you lose and you don't get the quarterback that you want, you're going to kick yourself. You know what I mean? And if they really like Dart and they feel they can get him at 15, and they can leapfrog all the other teams that could possibly move up, they just guarantee like we are getting this player, and we get Abdul Carter and Dart. You're pretty happy with that if you're Joe Shane, because you protect yourself with the BPA, but you also protect yourself with a quarterback you spent a first round pick on, theoretically, or not theoretically, actually, because you spent the draft capital to move up. So yeah, I think 15 makes the most sense in terms of just like protecting themselves from another team leapfrogging them.
Yeah, I think that's just the big thing that gets in the way of this is, for the Giants, if you really have conviction in this quarterback, you can't F around. You got to make sure you get him. So you're going to have to overpay, and you're going to have to jump up way higher, and you're going to reach on this quarterback, and you're going to have to live with that and be okay with it. So what do we think of this draft compensation, or this trade compensation? I'm thinking $34.99, a second round next year and a fifth round next year. For me personally, when we get into the what we would do mock draft, it's going to look different, because I don't know if I would personally do this, but for Joe Shane, Brian Dable, with their back against the wall, do or die season, I think this is something that they are going to do tonight. I think they are going to trade a lot of assets to move up and get Jackson Dart. Should we go ahead and lock this one in?
I think we could take the fifth out, honestly. I think the 2 seconds and the third is more than enough, because they had Jeremiah had just the 2 seconds and 3 picks later. I think that's okay. So there you go.
There you go.
I think that's valid. I think that makes sense.
All right.
We get a quarterback and we get Abdul Carter. We're in an interesting position now.
Like I said, it's a pretty good first round draft haul. I mean, to get Carter and Dart, we really like Dart, and we have liked Dart throughout the process. So
lots of upside.
And I already know who I want here at number 65. I don't know about you, but this guy I have absolutely fallen in full bloom love with. It's Alfred Collins.
Run stopper, really good.
Oh my God, this guy is going to swallow running backs whole. The idea of having this kid who's 6'5", 315. I actually think he weighs more than that. Let me double check this. I'm pretty sure he's like 330.
Gives me Dalvin Tomlinson vibes.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good comp. That's a really good comp. I really like Alfred Collins, and because it's a predictive mock draft, the Giants did meet with Alfred Collins in a top 30 visit. I think this is who they're targeting at pick number 65. He's 6'6", 332 pounds. I mean, he's a freaking monster. You put that 332-pound, 6'6" man next to Dexter Lawrence, who's 6'4", 350 pounds. I don't know how you run against those two guys. That sounds incredible. And the biggest selling point for me, Alex, with Alfred Collins, not only does he line up at the 0, which is where Dexter Lawrence plays, so he's not going to line up there with the Giants. The guy is so athletic for his size. He's lined up as far out as the 5 tech. He's been a complete defensive end in a 4-3 system. Like, he can move all over your defensive line beside his, despite his size. Like, he could play your Leonard Williams role. I really like Alfred Collins. I think this is who the Giants are targeting at number 65 overall. What do you think?
I love it. This team needs another defensive tackle, a guy with athleticism. He played basketball. He was track, football, big guy. Really like that. I mean, this defensive front, we talked about just Abdul Carter helping them develop an identity. You add Collins to the mix now, you're happy. Like, your defensive line is one of the best in football, and you have depth there too with Golston and obviously some guys like DJ Davidson. You have some guys behind the scenes. Kayvon, you could even label as depth or rotational if you wanted to go that far. Like, there's so much going for you in the trenches now. And if you're Russell Wilson and you're looking at that defense, the Giants may have one of the best defenses in football. You absolutely do this. And by the way, he gets to learn from Dexter Lawrence. Pretty damn good situation to find yourself in.
Can't get better for Alfred Collins. I just hope he makes it this far. I think this is who the Giants are targeting at 65. I can't guarantee he'll be there at 65 because I think a lot of teams are going to look at 6'6", 350 or 330 pounds of meat, and somebody's going to fall in love with that meat and take him early. But hopefully he does fall into the Giants' lap at 65. And yeah, I did it on purpose, and I have no shame. Let's go ahead and take this meaty man here at 65.
Meaty, girthy hands, according to Lance Zierlein.
Lance Zierlein's always wilding out.
Wild, dude.
One of the reasons that I think you're right, 99 is that expendable pick for the Giants. They're picking at 105. They're already positioned right here to go ahead and take a player that they probably would have taken at number 99 anyway. So far we've got edge, we've got quarterback, we've got defensive interior. What's the next position you think the Giants are going to target? I have an idea here, and I don't know.
I think
want to
running
see where
back.
you go with it first. Yep, that's where I was going to go.
Let's see who's on the board.
I just don't know. They didn't meet with any of these guys. You know, I really like Trevor Etienne. I don't know if they would take him.
You could hit Etienne. I like that. Oh,
yeah,
they did meet with him on a guy.
But if we're going predictive with this, I don't know.
Right. I think Monengai probably is the pick they go with because they kind of like these like smaller school running backs. I mean, you know, Tyron Tracy out of Purdue. I wouldn't, you know, I definitely think that Monengai makes sense, especially if they spent a visit on him. I could see it. I could definitely see it. Or Kobe. Bryant.
I like Kobe Bryant, dude. I know that the Giants met with Kobe Bryant, so I'm trying to, again, predictive mock draft. I think that could be the pick. Plus, I think you can get Monengai later. You can get him in round 5 or maybe even 6.
Okay, we could try.
The Giants don't have a sixth, so what do you think? I think because they met with Kobe Bryant and because they still do need depth in the secondary, I like Cobes.
I don't hate it. Yeah, we could do that. That's fine.
They also did meet with Jalen Reed, but I think after spending big money on Javon Holland, I don't know if they would take a safety this early. What about guard? Is there any? I know PFF did have them taking this Charles Grant in a recent mock. I don't know if that would actually be the route they go.
I wouldn't take a William & Mary tackle, to be fair.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I know Miles Frazier has a lot of fans. He's an athletic guard from LSU, so.
I don't mind a developmental guard, especially because like Carmen Brasillo hasn't been given a chance to draft somebody he likes that he can develop. I think that we should go. Let's go with the guard because I do think that Brasillo he deserves to get a player that at least he can coach, and he wasn't just like gifted, you know, from Bobby Johnson's era. So I think let's give him a guard in the 4th round. I don't hate that pick.
Yep. I think predictively, I could see the Giants going guard in round 4 makes sense for them. All right, round 5, though, I think is where they do take a running back. I think they would ideally like to take one much sooner than this, but based on how the board is falling, based on the players that they've met with, I think that round 5 is a good time for them to take Kyle Monengai.
All right, I'm in. Let's do it.
Let's
go,
player.
Man.
Now
Smaller
we're flying
school,
through this predictive mock draft. These mid rounds are a lot of fun, though. This is where the draft is going to get really interesting for the Giants.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're zooming now.
Let's put that bitch in turbo. Let's go. Oh, I know this person. He's a cool guy.
Also, Jackson Dart's teammate.
Yeah. And Giants are looking for tight end depth. I don't know. What about Caden?
Yeah, they are.
Caden Prescorn? If the Giants have Caden Prescorn, I'll get him on the podcast.
I think they trade this pick to the Eagles for Dallas Goedert.
Ew. God, that would be awful.
I'm just saying. I think they go linebacker.
Not wrong though. They've definitely had some interest in Goddard. So, do you want to make that trade? Because we can make that trade. We do have one more 7th round pick.
This is predictive. So I think that they probably I don't think they're actually going to do that. I think they're going to take a linebacker. They always take a linebacker in the last 3 rounds.
I would say with 246, they take that linebacker though. No, like
they could
get a little special with this.
All right. I mean, if you want to go trade for Dallas Goedert, which by the way, your team is like substantially better. By the way, like if you get Dallas Goedert, like your team is a lot better with this draft class. Like you are a much better football team, in my opinion. Jimmy Horn's good though. I do like Jimmy Horn.
I think the Giants like the Colorado receivers. They sent like everybody to Colorado.
Where's LeJohntay? Is he still there?
Of course he's there.
Yeah. Oh, give me LeJohntay. What are you talking about?
This is predictive. We'll fly through and do a quick what we would do
They
mock
had a
draft after
virtual
this. We'll
meeting
take
with
LeJohntay.
LeJohntay. I think that's not. I think he could be there.
We did have a virtual meeting with
I
LeJohntay.
know. I think that they could still take LeJohntay Wester. I think he's a good player, and he's a hard worker, man. Talk about a guy who loves football. He loves football.
You don't want to save him for the what we would do mock draft?
I'm gonna put him in that too.
All right. F it.
Wow.
LeJohntay.
Look at the Colorado players dropping like rocks in this predictive.
They've all
class.
been projected to
Whoa.
go here, and this is nothing changed. They're not dropping.
guess, yeah.
This is just kind of how they
7th round though is like late. Even for some of those guys, they're not bad.
And I do agree with you. I think a linebacker in the 7th round is what they're going to do. I don't know any of these 7th round linebackers, so I say we just take one and we just call this our predictive mock draft.
Wait, was there one from UCLA? I think they met with the UCLA guy. I don't know if that was him though.
I think you're right, and I don't know either. So let's just go ahead and take the UCLA one. Screw it.
They met with somebody from UCLA.
There's Masua's former teammate. PFF doesn't like this, but I knew that they wouldn't. PFF never likes my mock drafts. But what do you guys think? Do you like this mock draft? And again, keep in mind, this is our predictive mock draft. Don't kill us for saying, oh, you guys are bad GMs. We're pretending to be general manager Joe Schoen right now. So kill him if you don't like this mock draft, because this is very well what the Giants draft could look like.
Don't blame the messenger
this weekend. Yeah, don't shoot the messenger. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, listen, Alex, if this is the way that the draft goes for the Giants this weekend, I think I'd be cool with it.
I'd be very fine with this. I mean, you walk away with a superstar possible edge rusher. You walk away with possibly getting your quarterback of the future. I mean, you have your quarterback of the future. You just don't know if he's going to be good. Alfred Collins is a great run stopper. Miles Frazier, you get a guard with upside to develop into a solid player. Monangai, you add a running back who can develop behind Devin Singletary for a year, and Singletary's still under contract, and his contract, you can't really cut him just yet. LeJohntay Wester, you need another slot receiver, in my opinion, because there's nobody behind Wan'Dale Robinson right now. And if he gets hurt, you have a guy that can step in. And if Wester shines, you can let Wan'Dale walk and not have to pay him next offseason. So I think this addresses a lot. This addresses a lot of needs naturally, and it gives the coaches something to work with across the board. I think that this is a solid draft, in my opinion.
I agree with you. I think it looks good. I would be happy with this. I think Monangai is really low on PFF's draft board, which is why they give him an F, but I think he's going to go higher than they project him, and I think he's a much better player than like the 230 ranking that they have him. So same with LeJohntay Wester. I think these are good players and good picks, and if this is how the draft goes for the Giants, I think we're all going to be happy fans on Sunday afternoon. But let's go ahead and fly through. We'll do this one quickly since we spent so much time on the predictive mock draft, Alex. Let's do our what we would do mock draft here. And again, we will make this one quick. So number 3 overall, we would take Abdul Carter, I assume.
Yes,
absolutely. The big question is, would we then trade into the first round for quarterback, and how high would we go? And I'm curious to know whether or not that's something that you think the Giants are going to do, or if it's something that you would actually do. Me personally, Alex, I don't think I would. I'm not in love with this quarterback class. And if I were the GM, assuming that I just took over this offseason, let's assume that, and I'm not dying to get a quarterback, I'm not in love with this quarterback class. I really like Jackson Dart. I think everybody knows that you and I both do really like Jackson Dart. But, man, I mean, that's a lot of capital to give up for a quarterback who has a lot of question marks.
It's also like we like him a lot in context with this class, and that's not saying much. So what I will say is this. You might be able to get Jalen Milroe at 34, and he's more of a home run option. You don't have to trade any draft capital to get him. So like that's the alternative. You might be able to get Sanders at 34. Like that's how I feel now. So, who knows? I'll say this though, next year's class is going to be a lot better. There's going to be more first round talents, and I'd rather trade up next year to get a quarterback than this year. If it's felt like all offseason, Anthony, we've been trying to convince ourselves one of these quarterbacks is the right option for the Giants. And the truth is that they're probably not. What I think, so like I think I would just take Jalen Milroe at 34. You get a guy with an elite trait. Jackson Dart does not have an elite trait. He has a couple of good ones that may develop into above average ones. I think that I would definitely consider just taking a Milroe at 34 instead of trading up into the first round, because at least you can say that if you're Joe Schoen, we have a guy. We drafted a quarterback and we got Abdul Carter. We have all of our draft capital for the future. And by the way, the running back / quarterback that's sitting there behind as QB3 right now has a trait that might be the best in football. Like he might be the best at something in the National Football League, and that is running the football from the quarterback position. If he develops his arm, if we can get him there, and Brian Daboll has done this with a player before, if we get him there, this guy is going to set our franchise up for the next decade. You know what I mean? Like that's a dart worth throwing, and it doesn't compromise our ability, by the way, Anthony. It doesn't compromise our ability to take a quarterback in 2026 if we're not good enough. If we end up with a position to get one. Like Jalen Milroe at 34 does not stop the Giants from getting a quarterback next year, but trading up for Dart might. And that's kind of where I run into a wall with that idea.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the idea that's going to come to fruition. I think the Giants are going to trade up for Dart, but if we're doing what I would do, I wouldn't even take a quarterback at 34, Alex. I would just go ahead and take the best player available. For me, that would be Tyleik Williams, a defensive interior man out of Ohio State. If we're doing what I would do, I'm taking Tyleik Williams here. I think he's an absolute stud, and I think adding him to a defensive line alongside Dexter Lawrence and the rest of the guys that we've mentioned would be absolutely insane. So I don't know, though.
So
I do agree with your take, though, on taking a quarterback with an elite trade at Milroe. It's just, if it were me, I'm just going to wait on one of these mid-round guys and try and develop a backup.
Well, that's what I'm going to say.
Quarterback next year.
I'm okay. I'm not saying on BPA in the second round if we'll have with our 9th pick.
I caught most of that. I don't know. My brother just turned into a robot on me.
I'll repeat this. I'm okay commenting on going to the round if we get Will Howard third.
All right. Alex said, in case you couldn't translate C3PO there, but I'm pretty good. That
start right from.
All right, you're good to go.
So I'm willing to compromise on this one. What I would be willing to do is go BPA with the second round pick, and then with the intention of taking Will Howard in the mid rounds as a developmental quarterback, big frame, some tangible to like there, maybe taking him out 105 if he's around. That's the compromise I'd be willing to settle on if we're going to pass on a quarterback altogether in the first 2 rounds. Do you have any objections to that plan?
Yeah, I'm down for it. I think that going BPA, if this is what I would do mock draft, I'm going for the defensive lineman at number 34, because I think the Giants could get a legitimate impact starter at 34. And if I don't have a conviction in these quarterbacks, which I personally don't, I like Dart, I like Milroe, all these guys, I just don't have personal conviction. I'll go BPA at number 34, and I'll take that developmental backup quarterback at 99 or 65 if that's what we want to do. So we're good for that. All right, so best player available in my mind is Tyleik. I'm going to go ahead and take our guy, Tyleik Williams. Let's turbo it over to pick number 65. What are you thinking at 65 here, Alex? I think this is where the Giants in this scenario would end up going with a running back. I know you like that guy, Cam Skattebo. Maybe we go ahead and take your guy.
So I like Cam Skattebo, obviously. I think he, like Jake Glazer said, ticks that third box you mentioned earlier. He loves the game of football, tough guy, lots of production. At Arizona State, this is a player who played injured. He almost single-handedly won a bowl game for this team. I do think that, you're looking, rather he won a playoff game. I do think that he's a very good player. I know some people say he's undersized. Some people say he's not going to be that good, but I think that just makes him better personally. So I do like Skattebo a lot, and a lot of people like Caleb Johnson and Damian Martinez. Skattebo is just my preference, but you can't really go wrong with one of these running backs. I think just in general, they could, elect to go with this position, whether or not it is Skattebo or another player that plays running back in the third.
Yeah, agreed. I really like running backs at this position. I know that the Giants did have a top 30 visit with Cam Skattebo, so let's go ahead and take him here at number 65 overall. I think that makes sense for what we would do mock draft, and I also think it falls in line with what the Giants would like to do if they don't give up a boatload of capital to move up and take a quarterback in the first round. So add that quarterback at 65, and in the what we would do mock draft, we'll take your guy. How about Will Howard at number 99 overall? We like it.
Why is Jackson Dart still on the board?
Dude, the PFF mock draft machine is so
crazy.
Yeah, but
give me Will Howard.
I do think Will Howard will be there at 99, though. I think he'll be available at that selection. So in this instance, I think he makes sense to take with this pick. So, all right, we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll fly through the rest of these picks. If it were up to me, Alex, at pick 105, I do really like Kobe Bryant, and I think that's who I would take with this number pick. What do you think about Kobe?
Let's do it.
Good with that one?
Stack another corner. Stack another corner. Yep.
Yeah, I don't think you can have enough talent in the secondary. All right. Down here, number 154, fifth round pick for the Giants. I think you got to add an offensive lineman in this draft. So maybe we just go ahead and take the best offensive lineman available. How do you feel about that?
I don't hate that approach.
Okay. I don't hate that approach either. Let's just take the best lineman available and fly through these final seventh round picks. We're going to go ahead and take your guy, LeJohntay Wester, as we said. And then I'm going to override this final selection and make my own pick. And this is where we are going to be a little bit silly. And we are going to take Mr. 464 pounds himself. And we're going to draft Desmond Watson with our final pick and say, screw the Eagles and their tush push. So this is the what we would do mock draft. Grades a lot higher on PFF scale. But let us know which of the two mock drafts we did in this special you preferred down below in the comment section. Due to a lack of sufficient Wi-Fi on Alex's part, I'm going to go ahead and finish out this mock draft special before we go ahead and get prepared for tonight's NFL Draft live reaction live stream. So before we wrap this thing up, though, I am going to give a big shout out to all of you who did submit mock drafts on the community page yesterday afternoon. So I'm going to go ahead and read off some of your comments and give you all some big shout outs. First of all, we've got Anthony Gibson 2956. Thank you for your comment saying, not going to do an entire mock, but if available, consider one of the picks for University of Texas running back Jaden Blue to pair up with Tyrone Tracy Jr. I do really like Jaden Blue, and if the Giants draft him on day 3, I would be thrilled. Kid's got some speed and some talent, and he could be a real speedster to take some explosion and put it in the backfield as well. So JDV BB8 here with a mock draft going all the way up until pick 105. Abdul Carter at 3, Donovan Jackson at 34, Alfred Collins at 65, Kyle McCord at 99, and Ollie Gordon pick 105. So waiting on a quarterback, taking McCord at 99. I know a lot of you are fans of Kyle McCord. I am too. I think he's really accurate and he has great touch on his passes. I do like him as a backup with potential upside to develop. So if the Giants decide, hey, we don't want to give up all that draft capital to get Jackson Dart in the first, I'd be happy with a Kyle McCord around pick 99. Mike Yard did a full 7-round mock draft, finished it off with Corey Black, the cornerback out of Oklahoma State at pick number 249, but had Abdul Carter, Kenneth Grant at 34. I don't know if he'll fall that far, but that would be interesting. Caleb Johnson, the running back out of Iowa at 65. Marcus Mbow, the guard at 99. Kyle McCord, quarterback, of course, out of Syracuse at number 104. So Kyle McCord becoming a popular pick for these mock drafts. Sean Caffrey, 4536. Thank you for your comment as well. Saying Abdul Carter at 3, Josh Connerly Jr. at 34, Alfred Collins at 65. You have Monangai at number pick 154. Very similar to a lot of the mock drafts that we've done on this channel. And yeah, I really like that. Alfred Collins at 65 to me, can't go wrong. And I do like the Rutgers running back Monangai at pick 154. Time Peg 8965 dropping a comment here. Abdul Carter at 3, Jackson Dart at 34. Doesn't sound like he's going to make it there anymore, but if he does, sounds like the Giants would absolutely take him at pick 34 if they stick and pick and he's on the board. Jonah Savanaia at pick number 65 is a great selection that I want to shout out from Tim here. I think that's a great pick, and if the Giants want to prioritize the offensive line and the trenches in general, Savanaia at number 65 would be a knock it out of the park selection, in my opinion. Aziki with a comment, Carter at 3, Connerly / Donovan Jackson 34, 65 CJ West. Not going to try and guess the rest. Aziki with a comment here, number 3, Abdul Carter, number 34, Connerly / Donovan Jackson going offensive line in the second round. 65 CJ West, not going to try and guess the rest because it's dependent on the board. And you are right, it is very dependent on how the draft board shakes out. And I'll say this, if the Giants prioritize the trenches, go Abdul Carter and Donovan Jackson at 34, man, I think that would be a great draft. So thank you, Aziki, and a good mock draft there. Few more to get through. Joel Montez, 7277, Abdul Carter, Jalen Milroe, Alfred Collins, Wyatt Milam, Cam Scatabo, Quincy Riley, Kobe King, Keandre Lambert-Smith. Listen, man, I think that you knocked it out of the park with those first 5 selections. If the Giants do land Carter, Milroe, Alfred Collins, Wyatt Milam, the guard out of West Virginia, who's really, really good, and Cam Scatabo at pick 105, we would all be thrilled on Sunday as the draft wraps up. So really great mock draft there from Joel Montez. And honestly, I think it's kind of realistic. I could see this absolutely happening. Just depends on what the Giants do in the first round, if they trade up for Jackson Dart or not. Kenji Mapez saying, and thank you for your comment, Kenji. Or Kenji, hopefully I said your name right. I think it's Kenji. Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter at 1. Hunter, I think, is a lock at number 2 overall to the Browns, but I think Carter at number 3. Number 34, you have the Giants going with Tyler Shuck, the Louisville quarterback. Listen, I think you all personally know I'm not a fan of Tyler Shuck, but I know that he does have a lot of fans and supporters in the Fireside Giants community. So interesting selection. First of any of the comments that I've seen have Tyler Shuck to the Giants at 34. Mason Taylor, the tight end at LSU at 65, would be an interesting pick. If Jonas Avenaya or Tate Ratledge are available at 99, I think they do make a lot of sense. And you have Cam Scatterbo or Jack Beck at number 105. Both pretty good selections. I like Scatterbo, think he's a good running back, and Jack Beck, the TCU wide receiver, Senior Bowl MVP, a very good player with some great upside. Howard Cross III, the defensive tackle in round 5. Really good mock draft there, Kenji. I do have to say, I think so far Joel Montez is my favorite. But Kenji, you have a good mock as well. I just don't like Tyler Shuck at 34, but ultimately that's down to preference. Wheels84SS is the first of any of these comments that I've seen to have Shedeur Sanders at number 3 overall. That would be your preference. And hey, I'm going to say that my preference is Abdul Carter. I think the Giants should and will go best player available. But if you think they should take their quarterback and you think Shedeur Sanders should be that quarterback, I can't fault you if you want him at number 3 overall. Kenneth Grant at number 34, Marcus Mbao at 65, a great pick. Savion Williams, a TCU wide receiver who also plays some running back at 99. You've also got Josiah Stewart, Jack Kaiser, Trevor Etienne at 219. You know I like that one, and Sebastian Castro to round it out. And lastly, in the YouTube community page, we have Adrian Webb 6117, Carter, Milrow, Ratledge, Bryant, Farmer, Neal, King. Really good mock draft. I really do like Neal, the running back out of Kansas. A lot of speed on him. That would be Devin Neal, not Evan Neal, but Devin Neal. Good pick there. I like Tate Ratledge in the 3rd round, as well as Kobe Bryant and Joshua Farmer, the FSU defensive tackle. So really good mock draft there and a lot of great mock drafts. Thank you all so much for dropping those mock drafts on the YouTube community page. Big shout out to all of you. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in and being so involved with the pre-draft process here on the channel. And finally, we've got 2 mock drafts that were submitted on Twitter. So shout out to @UTrae, EUTRAEE. Shout out to you, Trey. And you have Abdul Carter at 3, Gray Zabel at 34, which is definitely an interesting pick. Shamar Stewart at 65. I have to say, I don't think he's making it that far. There is some buzz he could go in the 1st round. But you've got Kyle McCord at 107 and Kobe Bryant later on in the draft. Obviously, you know, those are some players that I like. You also submitted a mock draft that had Jalen Milrow at 34, Cam Scatterbo at 99, Tate Ratledge at 65. Also really good mock draft. Thank you for dropping that one in the comments, Tay. And Elijah Chapman season dropped a mock draft as well. Abdul Carter, Jalen Milrow, TJ Sanders, the South Carolina defensive tackle, also a good pick. Marcus Mbao out of Purdue, double dipping at defensive tackle with Farmer at 105 and Devin Neal at 154. Guys, a lot of great mock drafts. And once again, drop my phone there, but appreciate you all for tuning in throughout the offseason. Thank you for submitting mock drafts. And guys, all of the ones that you heard, which one is your favorite? Is it one that I did, one that Alex did, one that I just read off in the comment section? Let me know. I do really like Joel's. I'm very partial to that mock draft in particular, but appreciate you guys. And now, drum roll, please, for the big fun part of this episode, the mock draft special. I told you guys I had something special planned. Well, the Fireside Giants Pro Day. Time to deliver to you guys my Pro Day workout. And after you watch it, let me know down below, where would you draft me? Do I deserve a chance at the Giants practice squad? Do you like my throwing mechanics? Is my 40-yard dash that's very slow, way too slow for you to draft me? Let me know and have some fun. Go ahead, make fun of me, pick on me, compliment me, whatever you want to do with the footage that I provide here for the Fireside Giants Pro Day. Very excited to present this to you guys. I know that we've had a lot of great conversations in the live streams and on Twitter with all of you who view the channel about my flag football and about my ability to play quarterback. So I think this is a fun way to kind of just cap off the draft season, show you guys my 40 and all of that other stuff. So let's have some fun and discuss my Fireside Giants Pro Day. So that's going to roll next, and then the video is going to end. But guys, thank you once again from the bottom of my heart for all of the support throughout the offseason. It feels like it's kind of a finale here. The NFL draft is finally occurring this Thursday night. And make sure that you do tune into the live stream during the 1st round. And the 2nd round will be live on Friday as well. So Really excited for it, guys. Thank you so much for all of your support. And make sure to tune into this live stream. And make sure you drop your final predictions for the draft down below in the comment section. Leave a like, please. It helps the channel so much. Subscribe. It's free. What are you waiting for? Make sure you subscribe for more Fireside Giants content. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media channels as well. I do put in a lot of effort for the Fireside Giants Instagram, Twitter, and all of our other pages. And, of course, my own Twitter at Anthony_Rivardo. Thank you guys again so much for all your support. Enjoy my Fireside Giants Pro Day that I put together. And, again, let me know down below. Do I deserve a shot at the practice squad? Could I compete with my brethren, Tommy Cutlets? You guys let me know. But, of course, I'll catch you all at tonight's live stream, which is probably kicking off around 7:30 p.m. Eastern, I believe is when we're going to get started. So make sure that you tune in, and I'll see you all there. Until then, have a good one, and let's go Giants. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo. Today here with Willie Perez and John Thompson running the Fireside Giants Pro Day. You guys know I'm QB1. Time to put my skills to the test. Let's do it, boys.
Do it. William Perez, Forest Hill, a little bit of everything. 561 Cosmic.
John Thompson, Life University, wide receiver 1, Margee Softwash.
Anthony Rivardo, Stetson University, quarterback, Fireside Giants. No football field at the local park today here in South Florida. It's a beautiful day. We got the lacrosse field instead, but what we know about lacrosse, from midfield to the goal line, that's 40 yards, so you already know the 40-yard dash coming soon. Let's get ready.
That's really 5 flat.
Five, 4, 3 for boom.
.16.
Run the 40 like that.
Yo, yeah. Oh!